My name is Geraldine Montgomery. I'm the day-to-day coordinator of Leeds Arts Health and Wellbeing Network. We're recording this meeting for some people who aren't able to be with us today, but we've had a few apologies just because of the circumstances that we're in at the moment. So thank you all for being so understanding. We've got quite a lot of speakers and projects that are joining us, and they're taking into account some of the things that we've been talking about in previous meetings. So thinking about research and what works in Leeds and in arts and health, think about gender disparity, which was a big issue at our last meeting, looking at diversity, diverse culture, diverse participants, diverse artists, and working in different health situations and with different health problems. We'll be having a breakout room later, so I hope that you'll be able to take some time to meet with different members of the forum and people who've come with an interest in arts and health and what's going on in Leeds. But rather than take up time, if everybody could put yourself on mute unless you're on the agenda, and we'll start with Hannah from Yorkshire Dance and Sarah Astle at the University of Leeds.
Thanks, Geraldine. Hello, everybody. I have the pleasure of hosting the Zoom today, which means I'm sort of trying to do technical things and contribute. So if I'm looking a bit confused and frazzled, that is why. I'm just going to see if I can spotlight myself. Can you all see me a bit bigger? Excellent. And I will try and spotlight all our speakers as they come through and also share my screen for different people. Just wanted to start by saying how delighted I am to be here. I'm actually stepping in for my colleague Adi Nibison, who's on compassionate leave, who would have been hosting today's meeting. So thank you for having me. I just wanted to talk very briefly about creative ageing in Leeds. I've been working as the programmes director at Yorkshire Dance now for about 7 years, and I've really seen the city just blossom and grow in terms of the work that's happening around creative ageing. And I've been really honoured to lead on some of that work for Yorkshire Dance. So one of the exciting things coming up for Yorkshire Dance in 2022 is the Ageless Festival. So we ran an Ageless Festival in 2019 that was really successful, bringing together different arts practices and with a particular focus on dance, which we're very passionate about, but really highlighting creative ageing, both through sort of participatory work, but also with a really strong focus on artistic practice of mature artists. So it's a festival that really celebrates age, but also asks interesting questions around the role of the arts as we get older. So that's the Ageless Festival. So if you're interested, that's the 1st and 2nd of July. And that will be taking place across 3 venues in Leeds, including Leeds Playhouse, Yorkshire Dance and Leeds City College. So we hope to work with lots of people on that. So if you're interested in that festival, please get in touch. Also, one of the kind of key things that Yorkshire Dance has been doing over the past 5 years is developing our work around dementia, and I know there's other people on this call that have been really instrumental in that work. We've actually got our first bit of investment from the NHS, a 3-year commission to continue our work on In Mature Company, which is the work we've been doing in partnership with residential care homes in Leeds. We've trained some of our staff, and I know Lily's on this call, in dementia care mapping, so really exploring the impact that work's having on residents. So that's a really exciting programme. And we've also just started and secured investment for a project called Company of People, which is an intergenerational project. So really looking at creating a performance company of people, residents in Leeds that are aged between 8 and 100, or possibly 101. We're yet to confirm that, so that's really exciting. So I'm quite interested in this kind of intergenerational practice and how we connect people across different ages through the arts. And then the final thing I just wanted to mention is a programme called Dance On, which has been a huge project really invested by Sport England and Public Health in Leeds, and it's also been happening in Bradford and Doncaster, and my colleague Dr. Sarah Astle, who's joining us today, is going to speak a little bit more about the research element of that project. But just to say that piece of work has been really looking at scale and whether we can use an arts intervention, in this case a dance intervention, at scale to reach bigger population groups. So we've been working across the programme with over 700 older people, really looking at the positive benefits of taking part in dance on a weekly basis, both in terms of physical and mental health, but also all those gorgeous kind of social benefits of participating. So I'll pass on to Sarah to give you a little bit more information about that. But if you're interested in finding out about any more of those projects, anything that I've mentioned, please don't hesitate to get in touch, and I'll pass it.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannah, and welcome to everybody. Some familiar faces and some people I've definitely given elements of the talk that I'm going to do today too. So what I'd like to talk about is the research in Dance On. So I think what we've been incredibly lucky is to capitalise on a relationship that started back in 2015, where we had some small pilot money from Leeds Public Health to develop Dancing in Time, which was a dance intervention looking at preventing falls. About a year and a half later, Sport England announced their Active Ageing Fund, and that gave us the opportunity to once again partner with Yorkshire Dance, and this time extending that to Darts based in Doncaster and One Dance UK, and apply for a larger pot of money from Sport England with some support as well from Leeds, Bradford and Doncaster city councils. And what we did is work in partnership, so that's the University of Leeds, myself and some colleagues, with our dance artists, Yorkshire Dance, Darts, One Dance UK, and initially as well older people in Leeds to help us co-create that dance intervention. So I have got a few slides. Some of the things I'll talk about are on these slides, and I'll also talk around them. There was a shorter version of a talk I give, so I can answer any questions later on. So the primary aim of Dance On, initially it started out as preventing falls, and then as there sort of became this national agenda really to get people to be more active, we kind of looked at that and realised the opportunity for dance in particular for older people as a really innovative and accessible way of getting people more active. And we really focused on older women, and the reason for that was just because the statistics tell us that older women are less physically active than men as we enter older age. So we've kind of have three main aims of this project, and this has taken place over 3 years now. So in the first instance, we were investigating if we could use dance and Dance On to reduce physical inactivity, and we really worked with areas in Yorkshire with the largest health inequalities. We then had a smaller sub-study which then explored not only if we can modify physical and psychosocial risk factors for falls, so looking at falls prevention, but we did a health economics evaluation of this. We were looking at the cost effectiveness of dance in terms of preventing falls and reducing all those associated costs, such as the need for mobility devices, accessing NHS resources, appointments with GPs, and looking at hospitalisation. And then, of course, all of activity was interrupted by this thing called COVID-19. And I give hats off to my wonderful colleagues at Yorkshire Dance and Darts, who very quickly transitioned the entire programme to online to keep contact with the very many older adults that needed even more support through that period of time. So we also started to look at the kind of, is it feasible to develop dance interventions online? Will people join in? And we looked at how it maintains their mental health in particular. So if I just talk briefly about our large programme, as Hannah said, we've engaged with over 700 people. And these are from Bradford, Leeds and Doncaster. And you can see the little diagram there that shows the breakdown. So we've had people from all of those regions. The majority of our participants are females. That's because the intervention was targeted at females due to the Active Ageing Fund and the Active Ageing agenda. But as you can see, we've also had 72 males. as well accessing our dance-on sessions. Now, importantly, not only do we want to look at can we get people to come and dance? What's really important is when people are involved in these type of dance programs is, can we maintain their adherence? So do they keep attending? And what you can see there is our statistic that if we followed these people that were attending our program for 12 months, there's adherence rate of 72%. So for every session we offered, and that was one session a week, 72% of those sessions were attended by these 700 people. And what I can tell you from the literature is that that sits in line, if not a higher level of adherence than many other kind of opportunities to keep people physically active or forced prevention programs. So we were really interested in physical activity in the first instance, and we can see that when we tracked our participants, so what we actually asked them to do is fill in some short questionnaires for us, which give us an indication of how active our participants were. And we used something called the Short Active Lives questionnaire. And we tracked their physical activity at baseline, so that's prior to being engaged in dance-on. And then we asked them again at 3 and 6 and 12 months how physically active they were. And what we're able to do is look at if this level of activity increases, and if it does, do they go from being what we might consider being inactive according to the Chief Medical Officer guidelines through to fairly or active individuals. So if you look again at those pie charts, what we're really interested in is that blue colour, in that indicates the number of people who are inactive. And if you look at 3 months, there's a huge change initially in physical inactivity. So people are becoming more active with participation. And what happens is that through the 6 and the 12-month period, we can maintain that level of activity. So this is one of the first times we've been able to track older people engaged in dance and can show they become more active, and that is maintained through quite a long period of time. So just to give you an indication of how we then looked at our smaller study. So this really focused on falls prevention. So all of our projects always invite people to dance on. They get a taster session, as this was seen as really important to older people. And we always tell them that they can come and dance and they don't have to be involved in research. If they are happy to be involved, we take data at baseline, and in this study, we really focused on a couple of what we call these physical and psychosocial measures. And these measures allow us to look at risk factors for falls, and then allow us to look at dance-on and to see whether we can modify them. So we used our Short Active Lives questionnaire again. So this looks at physical activity. We then used the timed up and go, which looks at balance and mobility. We use something called the falls efficacy scale. So this gives us an indication of how confident people feel undertaking activities of daily living without falling. And then we had a very specific questionnaire looking at well-being and health economics questions, so we could look at our cost effectiveness. Now, again, if we look at our data, this is a nice graph showing that from baseline to 3 months, you can see a big increase in physical activity, and those little stars indicate this was significantly different. So not just that it increased, but significantly so. And then you can see at the same time, we can maintain this through 6 months. And unfortunately for this project, COVID got in the way of our 12-month data collection. But again, we can see physical activity being increased. If we now look at the other variables on the next slide, we can see an improvement in balance and mobility. And we also can see that with time, people are less concerned about falling. So they go from being classified as having a high concern to a medium or low concern. We also saw a significant improvement in how they perceive their own health and well-being, which was maintained at 6 and 12 months. And together we take this data, and we take our data from our bespoke health economics questionnaire, which asks things like, how many times have you visited your GP? It asks about medications, number of trips to A&E. And we have some very clever colleagues based in the academic unit for health economics who can tell us that if you implement Dance On, the investment made on running it is worth it in terms of the reductions in NHS care and medications that are needed by the participants. So as I noted, we quickly transitioned online, and it really proved an opportunity to keep the programme going in a much needed time, but also look at some initial feasibility studies around this. So we again asked our participants to be part of a research project. And if you just take us to the next slide, Hannah. We had 30 people volunteer to take part in the research. More definitely danced online. Some had already been dancing face to face. For some, this was the first time they joined Dance On. Generally, we saw people were more active, and this was in particular vigorous and what we call light activity. But I think what importantly showed us this really difficult period of time, we saw significant increases in happiness, life satisfaction, and decreases in anxiety in our participants. So we could really improve the mental health of the people that are involved in Dance On. So what are our take-home messages? We can develop a community-led dance programme where the sessions are very much based on a relationship between the artists and the participants. And they adhere to this, they like to come and they stay with us. We can see increases in physical activity, some based through dance, some based through the fact that this gives people more confidence to undertake other physical activities. We can reduce the number of people who are classified as frail or pre-frail. And we saw initial evidence that dance supports the mental health of older people. And finally, Dance On is a really cost-effective ways of increasing physical activity, preventing falls, and modifying those risk factors for falls. So just to note that there is I don't know if we can maybe pop it in the chat, Hannah, the link to the booklet that we've actually produced. So anyone can flick through that and see all the research findings, and also some lovely quotes, because we do a lot of focus groups and we do interview our participants as well, so you can read about their own experiences within that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's such a really wonderful, strong selection of information, lovely pictures, really moving. And maybe there might be some people who have questions. Would it be okay to ask the questions in the chat? Brilliant. So our next speaker is Tamara, or Tammy. The last time we had a Creative Ageing Forum, we were talking about gender disparity and how a lot of our facilitators and participants in Leeds tend to be female, and that was borne out by the information we were just looking at from the research. Tammy, could you give us a bit of an overview of this topic of gender disparity? Oh.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, good, good. Right, just to start off with, I'm no expert at all on working with older people or men dancing, and I should think that Balbir and Ben, and if there's any other males there, might have a lot more to say than through their experiences than I would say. Just to let you know that I'm just a choreographer. I'm a freelance choreographer, an individual, and that's what I've done all my life. I started working with older people in the very early 80s when I was dance artist in residence for Stirling District Council, and I can tell you it was a baptism by fire. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd been a dancer, I'd been working with young people that of course have got lots of energy, and suddenly I was working with older people. But I did learn the birdie dance. If I had to do it, I had to do it. I don't know how many times. And now, as I'm getting older myself, I find I'm working much more with older people, although it has been a priority. Even when I was lecturer at Middlesex University, I was teaching community dance, and we would go out, we worked with Age Concern, and we'd go out into homes and do workshops and performances. etc., etc. I think one of the things that I have more questions than I have answers. So maybe some of you might have the answers for me, which would be great. One of the questions I have, what is our perception? And I'm talking very much as a choreographer here, rather than just working and doing dance classes with people. But what is our perception of older people? How do we view them? How, when we're creating, are we choreographing them? Yeah, how in choreography we actually, as choreographers, as artists, what are we doing? How are we working with people who are older? How are we telling their story? How are we looking at the bodies and what they can do and what they can't do? I think also, like, what's really, really important is support for older artists. There are amazing artists out there that have dedicated their life to dance, and they're just thrown on the heap. And yes, we have to support young artists. It's vital, it's important, but also we have artists that are older and have a whole life experience to contribute to our world of dance. When we talk about working with dance, and are we just talking about going into homes or working or doing workshops or doing classes where we're just looking at the well-being? This is just my opinion, really believe that dance can also reach the spirit and the soul. And how do we work on that? How do we find that when we're working with people, not just actually older people, but anybody, we mustn't forget the art of dance. I believe dance is an art, and we've had to fight as dancers and as dance artists. We constantly have to fight for our place in the art world. And therefore, I think it's like when we're doing the work, how are we doing it? How are we portraying? How do we find that place that is deep within inside us that we can pass on to people that we're working with? So it's about feeding the soul, and it's about feeding the spirit, for me anyway. So I think that's quite important. And we do recognize the social benefits, we do recognize the well-being, but maybe we can look at also how we can go a bit further and into more depth, especially choreographically. Another question I have is, what voice are we giving older people? I think we have to give them a voice that is strong. Just to play devil's advocate, if I see one more piece, choreographic piece, of a group of older people prancing around, trying to pretend that they're 18, 19, 20, that they're young, and with pom-poms, or I don't know, shaking their hips or whatever, I can't bear it. I can't bear to see it again. We're more than that. And I put myself now, I'm now 71, I put myself in that category of older people. We are more than that. Please don't put us into categories. That if I walk into a room, you think that I'm going to like this or like that. I think we can open doors. We have the power to open doors, to discover more. And so what is the voice? What is the voice? And I think, you know, older people are beautiful. They have power. They have energy. Let's look at their sexuality. But as they are now, not as they sort of vaguely remember what they were like when they were 20. I see so many times I've gone to do workshops, and I've seen older women, and we'll come to the men in a minute, women coming in with little bunches, and they're going to do ballet because they've always wanted to do ballet, prancing around. Please, no. Let's find out how they can do ballet, but with the beauty that they are now. And I see Balbir sitting there. I actually went to see his performance not long ago, and there was just a beautiful, beautiful older woman. She just really touched me deeply, the way she performed. So thank you, Balbir, for that. It was really wonderful to see. So I think that's something else that as choreographers and as dance artists, we have to explore. We have to explore further. Right, men dancing. Balbir, you can join in anytime you like. I don't mind. We are, as dancers, dance artists, when we go in to teach a workshop with older people, what do we find? And actually, not just with older people, but most dance classes, a group of, let's say, females, women, and maybe one man or two. And you know, your heart sinks, to be honest, because it's okay if you're just doing class, but if you're doing choreography, you go, how am I going to fit him in? What am I going to do? So how do we get these men? And I think there was just Laura Spencer, she was an American TV artist, just to bring this up, ridiculed Prince George for taking ballet classes. And I don't think that was that long ago. But this has been going on for years and years and years. How men or boys are ridiculed, made fun of, called names because they've danced. And particularly if you look at older men, they will be from the same sort of generation I am, or even further back. And you think of the 70s, you think of Benny Hill, you think of all those awful jokes that was always about men in tights or men that danced. And I think it's very much our society, and we have to look at our society of how we're educating men or boys in dance. And it depends on different cultures. For instance, I've been doing a long-term project in South Africa. No problem, boys dancing, loads of them in the room. You go to, I've been doing a project in Mexico, in Peru, lots of men dancing, lots of boys dancing. And then, sorry, oh, is it my time? Okay, oh, sorry. So I think we have to look at education, what I would suggest, what's worked a lot in the past for us is with other artists that I collaborate with, that doing workshops for men, for boys and men. And I know it's sort of like, oh, but I think it's important that they've got a chance to just be able to walk in and feel, and it's worked, it has worked in the past for us. I think, yes, I think, and we need to look, I've done projects in schools where the PE, the rugby teacher won't let them do dance because boys don't do dance. And so it all has a knock-on effect. So maybe there should be some research at looking at older men and why they don't dance and how we can get them in. And maybe they might feel comfortable if maybe it was a room full of men rather than a room full of women and they're the only male in the room. Is that my time up? I could go on for ages, but thank you. If you've got any questions, please ask me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Balbir, would you like to continue?
Yeah, sure. I'll speed it up a little bit. Yeah. So championing diversity in dance, I guess from a male perspective, just to talk a little bit, first of all, about work with older people in Leeds in particular. We've done 3 projects with care homes, the Leeds inspired funding. We toured a work Love and Spice. And most recently, we took their memories of participants with walks in green spaces and working with dancers, contemporary and classical Indian, male and female. There was real richness of conversation and discussion, and taking their memories and then the artists seeing those park spaces through their eyes and their words and thoughts, and then creating footage as virtual walks to give back to them. So that was a really rewarding, rich project, which came out of the pandemic in terms of where care homes were closed and there was no access to them. So we gifted a virtual walk and connection with the environment. Working with older people, I've done a few projects with older artists. I think they're challenging in a good way. In the learning and the wisdom that they bring is incredible. Sometimes they do come from, just echoing a point that Tammy made in terms of put out to pasture, they do sometimes come from a place of lacking confidence a little bit in terms of kind of no longer having that recognition. So to engage and see them become re-inspired has been fantastic. I did a piece commissioned by Southbank, Learning to Dance, where I brought Namron, who was the first Black dancer to be employed by a contemporary dance company in this country and founder member of the Northern School of Contemporary Dance. He was about 73 at the time, and my Kathak guru, Pratap Pawar, who was 75 at the time, and I created a piece with the two of them, which was lovely just to see them trust me in one sense and be open to going on this journey, artists in their own right, but the journey that I took them on, the learning for me was massive, just how to manage the process and the studio space, and also how much they could do, couldn't do, pacing of the work. So there was a massive development for me, just in terms of the pastoral role of looking after artists and older artists, but also the wisdom that they do bring and we get from them. And then most recently, the piece Tamara mentioned, commissioned by Kala Sangam in Bradford, The Wise Ones, loosely based on the Nativity and the three wise men, but Wise Ones. Vilmore is here somewhere, so he was one of the dancers in that. Thank you, Vilmore, for a fantastic performance, which was put together just before Christmas. And for me, the important thing is working with older and younger dancers together and live music at the same time, and how just the chemistry of the performers and they bounce off of each other, and that's beautiful to see. And so that's that. And then just to finish off, we're developing a project called Unmasking Pain with Arts Council funding, working with people suffering from chronic pain, and Dr. Francis Cole, who is a pioneering pain specialist, and Durham University and Leeds Beckett University and GPs. And in the mix we have the classical Indian dancers who have suffered chronic pain as well. And the lady Tamara was referring to Bishaka as well, that is involved in that. So I could talk loads and loads, but I think the footage will demonstrate much more than I could say. It's a lovely short edit we've done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here talking to you in the middle of a production for Balbir Singh Dance Company. I really feel very emotional about it, because it feels like kind of not a complete circle, but kind of long journey. I knew Balbir first time when he was first starting to work, so he came to watch a workshop we were giving. As a new apprentice, he came to see how do we work. And after that, many years went, and then I invited him to take part in my productions. And now today, after a long journey through life, he has invited me to come to his production to perform. It's a really, really wonderful feeling. this is the first time I'm actually working in a production for the company, and I'm really touched to see what a caring company it is. And if, as a mature artist, if we want to work, that's something which is really essential to continue our professional career, so that all the other things about, things that worry older people regarding their vulnerability about their body and health, all kind of those things have been taken care of so casually, so nicely, that you can put your full energy into the creative process. So it's not emphasized on, well, look, these are the older people and this is why we are taking them. And for that sort of thing, what we need is new creative productions, new pieces, new characters, so that people can act in their natural ways. A new way of telling the story without emphasizing on the differences of generation or whatever, culture and styles. It's just concentrating more on the common grounds. And that has always been my practice. That's why I feel very warm towards the way Balbir is working and the work that is being created here. That's also something I really like, to have a lateral thinking, to make connections. And that's really the most important thing, isn't it? We all have got connections, but so often they're hidden amongst the differences, and that is kind of comes up most often in the conversation. But in this way, you look at various things which seems apparently totally unconnected. But then you just look at the common thread that you can draw from all of them and then build your work within that.
you so much for that, Balbir, and thank you, Hannah, for helping with the technical side of things. So we wanted, as we have been doing for our last 3 meetings, to have the chance of a bit of a breakout, hopefully meet somebody new or catch up with somebody we haven't seen since last year. So Hannah, if you could arrange some breakout rooms so we can get into groups of 2 or 3, and we'll just take a couple of minutes to digest. If anybody needs a comfort break, then you don't have to have a breakout, you can take a minute to yourself. Well, yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for taking a break, having a bit of time to reflect. And if everyone could put their mics back on, unless you're from Ascendance or Swan Song, because we have a couple more updates for you. But yeah, I had a great conversation, Hannah, so thank you so much for setting that up for us. Before we just have a few kind of closing reflections, Emma from Ascendance was going to tell us a bit about what they're doing this year. Emma, are you okay to join us?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Geraldine. Nice to meet everyone this morning, and Happy New Year. So yeah, I'm Emma from Ascendance. Ascendance has been running for 22 years now, and the main area that is, you know, considered the most amazing recently has been our Dance with Parkinson's. We were just discussing this in the breakout room, that actually for those people who weren't ready to be face to face, and we've managed to connect with so many people through online provision. We do a lot of hybrid, and I know that scares the life out of people, but it's been excellent. We've got roomers and zoomers, and we're just moving into this stage now where we're actually starting to choreograph. Getting back to what Tamara was saying about guys not dancing, we do have a really high provision of guys. I think it's due to our very, very active and very physical dance classes that we actually run. I think they really enjoy it. Just a little brief description on Dancing with Parkinson's. We run a thriving program online and face-to-face in St Chad's, Headingley, Leeds, Victoria Hall, Saltaire and Bradford. As I say, Rachel Wesson is the director, and myself, Natalie Haslam, who works from Birmingham, and we have our lovely Izzy, who's on today with us. The specialist strategies for people with movement disorders to keep the mind and body active, increase confidence and mobility, balance, flexibility, and encourage more independence and active lives. The activity is also designed to empower individuals to discover talents and raise aspirations for themselves and their local communities. So we get people to come and volunteer with us as well, which is amazing, and they aren't always dancers. They are older people, possibly, maybe young people, and we do that as well. So if you want any more information about Ascendance or what we're up to, you can find us on our website. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to stay on later. I know those 2 lovely ladies I just spoke to, I want to keep connected with. So I really appreciate you giving us this time today, Geraldine. Thank you.
No worries, Emma. Emma agreed to come on at a bit of short notice. But Emma, if you want to just pop your details in the chat, and then anybody who wants to find out anything from today's meeting, you're very welcome to email me. I'll connect anybody up. And Ben from Swan Song Project, we've been having a few chats lately about where Swan Song Project is going. So if you just introduce people.
Yeah, hi everyone. And thanks for the invitation, Geraldine. So yeah, the Swan Song Project is a charity. We're based here in Leeds, and we help people who are approaching the end of their lives or dealing with bereavement to write and record an original song. So I started it in 2017 after losing my grandma and regretting not writing a song with her before she died. I've been a songwriter myself for quite a long time. And we started working with patients at the Marie Curie Hospice in Bradford, and we started working at St Gemma's and Wheatfields here in Leeds. Obviously the pandemic happened, and then like most people, we had to start doing things virtually. So now the service is available virtually, which means we're working with people all across the country. And yeah, we help people from scratch to find ideas, what they want to write about, shape it into a song and record it in whatever style they want. It can be a punk song, it can be a folk song, it can be a jazz song, whatever. We'll do our best to make that work for them. The service is completely free, and yeah, it's available to anyone, you know, approaching the end of life. So kind of loose term. Sometimes it's terminal illness, sometimes it's various different things. And bereavement can be a close bereavement. You know, we work with people days after someone close to them's died, or many years later as well. Yeah, it's completely free, available on Zoom and available to anyone really. So we're trying to boost our connections and make more partnerships with people who might want to access our service. We also run an online singing group, which is free as well, which is on a Thursday evening. It starts again this week. That's really lovely. It's everyone's muted apart from Jess, who leads it, and she sings all the harmonies in a loop pedal, so you can hear all the different harmonies and sing along with whichever part you want. It's a really nice group. So that's every Thursday, everyone's welcome to as well. And we also host a podcast, which is where I have songwriters on, and they talk about how they write their songs, and also songs that have helped them deal with bereavements in a way. We have 73 episodes of that. That's been very fast paced to go through. But yeah, if anybody is interested in working with us, either yourselves or people you know who might be interested in doing a song with us, or through your organizations or have connections who might be interested in doing it, we're just trying to raise awareness and make the service available to as many people as possible. I'll put the website and my email address in the chat if anyone wants to contact me. I'd be very happy to hear from you, and thanks again for having me.
Thanks so much, Ben. So we've had such a lot of things to think about today. The work of big organisations like Yorkshire Dance that cover the whole region, and things they've found about how dance can help us be more active, help with anxiety, help with isolation, lots of just brilliant evidence that arts can be really cost effective in terms of health and well-being and care. We've had some great ideas from Tamara about focusing our sessions on particular demographics that maybe aren't represented in our work, and also think about education, which really chimes with Creative Lives Sheffield and the Creative Lives Network, who appeared at our last meeting, and that might be well worth anybody who's interested in ageing and ageism and creativity just looking back over. And we've had some great ideas from Balbir, Singh, and the recording from The Wise Ones about how we can concentrate on common ground and connection through the arts. The idea of us having new productions and new characters, which is really consistent with Performance Ensemble and their work with people aged 60 and over, and their innovative work, so who've come to our previous meetings. So much to think about. I'm hoping that everybody has watched over the couple of new connections, but if anybody would like to share their details in the chat as we close, you're very welcome. And if anyone would like to connect with anybody that they've heard with and they're not sure how, just get in touch with me, geraldine.montgomery@leeds.act.uk, or through our website or social media. Also really good to hear about Ascendance and our hybrid work, which means that everybody who can't get to sessions for dance can get involved or with singing, with their focus on Parkinson's, and also on Ben making these new relationships. So we've got another event coming up that focuses on digital arts. Ben will hopefully be joining us again with Shared Harmonies and other, like a wide range of arts, culture, visual arts, music, performance, heritage, anything that we can think of that you can do online. We'll be having a chat with 100% Digital Leeds. That's next Thursday. Again, just check our channels or our newsletter for more information. And thank you everybody so much for coming. If you've got any ideas about what we should be covering in future meetings, do let us know. And if you like what we're doing, we've got a survey out at the moment. We'd love to get feedback. But thank you so much, everybody, and I hope to see you again in a few months.